Napoleon I, Emperor of the French, has become a worldwide cultural icon generally associated with tactical brilliance, ambition and political power. His distinctive features and costume have made him a very recognizable figure in popular culture. He has been portrayed in many works of fiction, his depiction varying greatly with the author's perception of the historical character. In the 1927 film Napoleon, young General Bonaparte is portrayed as a heroic visionary. On the other hand, he has been occasionally reduced to a stock character, depicted as short and bossy, sometimes comically so. Confusion about his height also results from the difference between the French poucher and British inch, 2.71 and 2.54 centimeters respectively. He was about 1.7 meters tall, which is above average for the period. Theatre. St. Helena by R.C. Sheriff. Books. In Thomas B. Coston's historical novel The Last Love, a dying Napoleon, banished to St. Helena, tells his story to his lone companion, a girl who acts as his English translator. Napoleon is an important character in Leo Tolstoy's War and Peace, where considerable space is devoted to Tolstoy's interpretation of his historical role. He consequently also appears in the adaptations and films of this novel, listed in the following section. Napoleon appears briefly in the first section of Victor Hugo's Les Miserables, and is extensively referenced in later sections. Bernard Cornwell's novel, Sharpe's Devil, features a meeting between Napoleon and the fictional Richard Sharpe. He is featured in the manga Eiko Uno Napoleon, Eroica, written by the manga artist Ryoko Okada. Napoleon features prominently in the BBC Doctor Who Past Doctor Adventure World game, where the second Doctor must avert a plot to change history so that Napoleon is victorious. In an alternate timeline created by the assassination of the Duke of Wellington prior to Waterloo, Napoleon is persuaded to march on to Russia after the victory of Waterloo, but he dies shortly afterwards, his empire having become so overextended that the various countries collapse back into the separate nations they were before, thus degenerating into a state of perpetual warfare. Napoleon plays an indirect yet important part in Alexander Dumas's novel The Count of Monte Cristo. The novel starts in 1815 with Napoleon exiled on the island of Elba. Here we learn that he hands a letter to the protagonist Edmond Dantes to give to one of his chief supporters in Paris, Noirtier de Villefort, the president of a Bonapartist club. Dantes is unaware that Villefort is an agent of the exiled emperor and that the letter Napoleon handed him contained instructions and plans about Napoleon's planned return to Paris. Dantes' rivals include Gerard de Villefort, the opportunistic son of Noirtier, who uses the letter to frame Dantes and have him imprisoned in the Château d'If until he escapes after 14 years and seeks vengeance upon those who wronged him. C.S. Forrester's Hornblower series of novels are mostly set during the Napoleonic Wars, in particular Book 9 of the series, Commodore Hornblower, focusing on the French invasion of Russia and the subsequent defense of Riga from the period of 1812 onwards, and Book 10 Lord Hornblower, dealing with events in France up to the defeat of Napoleon by Wellington at Waterloo. Napoleon is one of the two main characters in Simon Scarrow's The Revolution Quartet, which details Napoleon's life from his birth to his defeat of the Battle of Waterloo alongside that of Arthur Wellesley's. In an Archie comic story featuring Jughead Jones, he is inadvertently transported by ambulance to a mental hospital. At first he protests, but relents upon hearing how well the patients are fed. When a nurse asks for his name, he replies, Napoleon Bonaparte. A later update changed this to him saying, "You know who I am, Sonic. I am the genius, Dr. Robotnik." H. Beam Piper's short story He Walked Around the Horses features a parallel universe in which both the American Revolution and the French Revolution were suppressed. Consequently, Napoleon does not rise to power and the Napoleonic Wars never take place. In 1809, he is described by a British general named Sir Arthur Wellesley as being a colonel of artillery in the French army and a brilliant tactician whose loyalty to the French monarchy has never been questioned. The collection If, or History Rewritten assembles numerous alternate history essays written in the first 4 decades of the 20th century. Napoleon has varying roles in many of them. Harry Turtledove's Alternate Generals anthology series have at least 2 stories based on the idea of Napoleon emigrating during the Terror. In Volume 1, The Last Crusader, by Bill Fawcett, he joined the church and became a cardinal in Rome. By the early 1810s he is a spiritual leader of the Allies who seek to overthrow the French Republic. In Volume 2, Empire, by William Sanders, he formed an independent empire based in Louisiana. With his lieutenants Andrew Jackson and Davy Crockett, he fights a valiant but doomed war against the British. Vaguely analogous to the War of 1812, Napoleon is a character in Treason's Tide by Robert Wilton, published in February 2013 by Corvus, an imprint of Atlantic Books. It is set during the summer of 1805. This novel was originally issued in June 2011 as The Emperor's Gold, film and television. Note: the name immediately following the title of the film is the name of the actor portraying Napoleon. Louis Feuillade, France, black and white, silent. Napoleon, Bud Fisher, USA, animation, short. Napoleon, Albert Dieudonné, France, black and white, epic silent, directed by Abel Gance. Conquest, Charles Boyer. A Royal Divorce, Pierre Blanchard. Kohlberg features him in a brief role. Desiree, Marlon Brando, USA, color, directed by Henri Costa. Napoleon, France, color, with Daniel Guérin as young General Bonaparte and Raymond Pellegrin as the older emperor, directed by Sacha Guitry. War and Peace, Herbert Lam, USA, Italian, produced by Dino De Laurentiis, directed by King Vidor. Napoleon Bonaparte, voiced by Mel Blanc. A Merry Melodies short directed by Fritz Freleng where Napoleon matches wits with Bugs Bunny. Austerlitz, Pierre Mondi, France, color, directed by Abel Gance. War and Peace, Vladislav Strzelczyk, USSR, Sergei Bondarchuk. Amour as Josephine, Pierre Ardita, French TV movie. Napoleon and Love, a 1974 television series depicting the romantic relationships of Napoleon. In the TV film Fairy Odd Baby, Jürgen von Extrangle proposes the name Napoleon to name Puff the baby. Waterloo, Rod Steiger, a Soviet-Italian production produced by Dino De Laurentiis and Sergei Bondarchuk. The film attempts to even-handedly depict the Battle of Waterloo and the events that led to it, abstaining from either wholly endorsing or condemning Napoleon or the English commander, Wellington. A Soldier's Farewell, Arthur Lowe, comedy where a soldier dreams that he is Napoleon at the Battle of Waterloo. Josephine ou la Comédie des Ambitions, Daniel Mesguich, French TV miniseries depicting the life of Josephine de Beauharnais. Napoleon and Josephine, A Love Story, Armand Desante, USA miniseries on ABC. Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, Terry Camilleri. In this time travel comedy film, Napoleon is one of several historical figures transported to late 1980s Southern California, where he discovers a fondness for ice cream and water slides, and a hatred for bowling. Napoleon, Peter Rudolph, Hungarian TV movie. Napoléon à l'Europe, Jean-François Stévenin, French TV series. Napoleon, Christian Clavier, A&E miniseries based on series of books by Max Gallo, directed by Yves Simoniou. Monsieur N. Philippe Tourton. Napoleon and Me, Daniel Auteuil. Night at the Museum. Battle of the Smithsonian, Alan Shabat. Napoleon is featured here as one of a group of villains alongside Comanra, Al Capone, and Ivan the Terrible. Stanley Kubrick worked on a film project about Napoleon. He never made it and put all his research efforts into the Academy Award-winning film Barry Lyndon. In Time Bandits, Ian Holm plays a height-obsessed Napoleon. Napoleon is a recurring character, played by Vern Troyer, in the 2000 syndicated television series Jack of All Trades. The Yu-Gi-Oh! XIXe character Vice-Chancellor Bonaparte is based on the cliché Napoleon. He is short, pudgy, French, has a short temper, and dresses similarly to Napoleon. He also utilizes a deck with a military theme. An animated caricature of Napoleon appeared as a semi-regular on the Warner Bros. series Hysteria. Here, he spoke like Hervé Villechaize, who also was French and short in stature. Napoleon hates to be reminded of his short stature, and he also likes to play the tambourine, which he keeps behind his coat. A clone of Napoleon is an occasional minor character in the MTV series Clone High. He is extremely diminutive, somewhat disliked, and has a management position at TGI Chili's. Abe Lincoln claims he has some kind of complex. Napoleon appeared in an episode of Robot Chicken as Napoleon Bonamite, a cross between Bonaparte and Napoleon Dynamite. In Time Squad, Napoleon is trapped at home to take care of the house after his wife Josephine takes up fine arts. Larry, Otto, and Tudrusel help Napoleon sneak out and help with his conquest. His wife finally gives up arts and due to her explosive temper decides to fight alongside him. Napoleon is the subject of a fictional film of the same name, with movie star Martin Weir portraying the title role in Get Shorty. A billboard appears of Weir in character as movie producer Harry Zim and Chili Palmer see as they drive through the city. Weir purposely dines al fresco to look at the billboard. Napoleon appears in Blackadder, Back and Forth, portrayed by Simon Russell Beale, as the main antagonist, who takes over the world after Blackadder inadvertently kills Wellington. In Minions, one of the masters whom the Minions served was Napoleon. They killed him accidentally using a cannon. Music and songs. Ludwig van Beethoven had originally conceived of dedicating his Third Symphony to Consul Napoleon Bonaparte. Beethoven admired the ideals of the French Revolution, and Napoleon as their embodiment. According to Beethoven's pupil, Rise, when Napoleon proclaimed himself emperor in May 1804, Beethoven became disgusted and went to the table where the completed score lay. He took hold of the title page and tore it up in rage. The Tori Amos song, Josephine, from her 1999 album To Venus and Back is sung from the viewpoint of Napoleon during his unsuccessful invasion of Russia. The Mark Knopfler song, Done with Bonaparte, from his 1996 album Golden Heart is sung from the viewpoint of a soldier in Napoleon's army. The song recalls the soldier's many battles serving in Napoleon's Grande Armée Acute. The Ani DeFranco song, Napoleon, satirizes the desire to continuously conquer, more specifically musicians who sign with big labels, thus employing an army of suits in order to make a killing, rather than just make a living. The Al Stewart song, The Palace of Versailles, from his 1978 album Time Passages, is filled with references and allusions to the French Revolution. One line specifically references Napoleon Bonaparte is coming, with his army from the south. Swedish pop group ABBA won the Eurovision Song Contest 1974 with the song Waterloo, which uses the battle as a metaphor for a person surrendering to love, similar to how Napoleon surrendered at Waterloo. The song Viva la Vida by Coldplay is loosely based on Napoleon's reign. During the Napoleonic Wars, a nursery rhyme warned children that Bonaparte ravenously ate naughty people. Bright Eyes recorded a song called Napoleon's Hat for Laniapa, an album released by Saddle Creek Records to raise funds for the Red Cross Hurricane Katrina relief efforts. The Charlie Sexton song, Impress, references Napoleon and Josephine. Napoleon was the topic of many sea shanties following his death, most notably the song Boney Was a Warrior. Napoleon figures in one episode of Pinky and the Brain entitled Napoleon Bonaparte, while France awaits Napoleon's triumphant return from Austria. Brain develops a recipe for exploding crepe Suzettes in an effort to conquer France. He uses the recipe in a cooking class, and when the crepes explode, he is arrested. When he is taken to prison, however, his luck begins to change when people mistake him for Napoleon Bonaparte. Napoleon eventually returns and is, typically, very short and temperamental. His sounds like Marlon Brando, who played Napoleon in the movie Desiree. Iced Earth released the song, Waterloo, on their album The Glorious Burden, which details Napoleon's defeat at the Battle of Waterloo. An episode of Epic Rap Battles of History is a rap battle between Napoleon Bonaparte and Napoleon Dynamite. Computer and video games. The campaigns of Napoleon have been depicted in the sixth installment of the Total War series, Napoleon. Total War. Player have a chance to follow Napoleon's Italian, Egyptian or Russian campaigns. Napoleon is featured on Assassin's Creed Unity as a supporting character. He also appears as the main antagonist in its downloadable content mission, Dead Kings. Napoleon is a frequently used leader representing the French civilization in the Civilization series. The first expansion pack to Europa Universalis 3, Napoleon's Ambition, bears his name and expands the game to cover whole reign.